Hi everybody, it's my pleasure today to share with you this video talking about the difference between documentary and reportage. Most definitions, as you know, don't differentiate between the two modes, let us say, because they assume that both of them deal with an agreed upon reality. So before dealing with the distinguishing characteristics of documentary and reportage, let us first know about the reality itself, about its nature. Does reality sense by itself? Do we have the same reactions towards the reality or the thing in itself as the philosophical term suggests? Dealing with this problematic issue requires conducting numerous philosophical insights. But let us have an example to get closer to the idea. Suppose there are two persons sitting in a cafe. The first one may feel cheerful just because the space reminds him of the day when his girlfriend came to confess her love to him. On the other hand, the second one may have a kind of downhearted feelings just because he heard bad news in the same space. So here, the thing in itself, in our example the coffee, is no longer a fixed reality. It is perceived in different ways by the two persons. Reality, in our case, doesn't suggest any kind of meaning unless our consciousness interfere to shape certain kind of meaning. And this meaning is given to the thing in itself, which is the coffee in our example, to construct a kind of perception, personal perception, because it differs from other kind of perceptions. Reality also is fragmented and segmented. Let us have another example to get more clear. For example, if someone is looking at a building, he or she has only an understanding of one facet of this building because she or he doesn't know about the three other facets. So in this case, reality is fragmented. From the vantage point of relativity, reality is personal and subjective because it doesn't generate any kind of meaning unless our consciousness interferes to construct this meaning. And of course, we are not speaking here about one kind of consciousness, but each one of us has his or her own consciousness that differs from the others. Reality then is not something fixed and stable. Now, what is the difference between documentary and reportage, since they both deal with a kind of situational reality, or maybe an imagined one? Documentary is an artistic work. It doesn't differ from any other artistic work such as painting and music. It deals also with aesthetics, whereas reportage is concerned with delivering pieces of information about a particular person or event, and the aim is within this context is communicative, whereas the aim of the documentary is expressive, since there is a filmmaker behind the image who opts for certain images, colors, camera angles, lighting, etc. All these filmic elements come all together to construct a kind of personal artistic choice. The reporter doesn't care of the filmic size that matter very much for the documentary filmmaker, because the former follows the norms and the rules to construct pieces of information to inform, whereas the filmmaker adheres to his or her subjective and personal approaches that goes beyond the notion of the message itself, since the aim is to express rather than to inform. We can more understand if we apply Roland Barthes' semiotic approach, namely the notion of denotation and connotation. Denotation refers to the literal representation of the thing in itself, whereas connotation stands for the cultural, psychological, abstract and significant representation of the thing in itself. Of course, this is a very simple definition of the two notions, but if you go throughout Barthes' Cinema Lucida, you can get into more details. So, for me, Roland Barthes speaks about photography when he refers to the two notions, but we can apply them to understand the difference between the documentary and the reportage. Reportage for me is denotative because it doesn't go beyond the notion of the message. It represents only the general context of the image, which is mild and mundane in nature. For example, let us imagine we have a photo of a little beautiful girl. So it can stand for denotation because it doesn't mean anything except a beautiful girl. But imagine there is a snake around the neck of this little beautiful girl. Now we are talking about the connotative mode of the photo, because the combination and the composition of this photo is significant, tries to shape multiple interpretations. Roland Barthes also refers to the notion of studium and punctum. So studium can be related to the reportage because it operates only within the general context of the photo, whereas punctum, it suggests a kind of punctuation, a kind of a personal touch to that photo. So here, documentary deals with this particular personal, subjective touch of the image. It has nothing to do with objectivity, of absolute reality or absolute truth, etc. It is something personal. To recapitulate, reportage claims to deal with a supposed to be an objective reality, whereas documentary accentuates the personal and subjective touch of the filmmaker. Thank you very much.